Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, well, it's an action-packed month, one guest after another. This one, little trip down memory lane. Not too long ago, in the early part of 2014, I introduced this gentleman to you. It was just about the time we were starting the ozone protocol here in my office, and what a great complementary therapy ultraviolet blood irradiation really is with the ozone. We almost always put the two together back to back. The gentleman who educated me on the use of UBI, his name is Tom Lowe. He's going to be our guest today. We're going to talk about UBI for those of you who may not remember what UBI is all about. And then two interesting units that he has available. So many people talk about wanting to do ozone at home. I'll tell you what, you might find it well within your cost range to do so, and you want to pay attention what Dr. Tom Lowe has to say to you today on that subject also. So right after the first break, our guest today, Tom Lowe, coming to you on two topics, ultraviolet blood irradiation and ozone therapy within the home. Of course, if you want to call in to ask a question or to make a comment, the number, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. I will give that number additionally throughout the hour. Okay, the month keeps rolling along. The next guest up is going to be on Wednesday. Good friend of mine, Mr. Edward Kane, owner and CEO of a company called Body Bio, located in Millville, New Jersey, right center of the state. I go there at least twice a year for our famous PK protocol conferences. His wife, a pretty famous lady, Patricia Kane is her name. Anyway, the combination of these two folks has had a real imprint on medical technology and medical advancement. We're going to be talking to Ed about something he put together a number of years ago, a mineral testing that does not fail you, is always 100% accurate, and can be done within your home. In fact, you should be doing it each and every week. Talk about mineral testing and a unique byproduct of the testing, which turns out to be natural chelation. I'll let Ed tell you all about it when he's with us on Wednesday. Then next Monday, 1 week from today, John Tobridge will be our guest. He is an alternative doctor from the Houston, Texas area, and he's going to be talking about chelation therapy. I asked him, please present the same way you did at the conference we were at a few weeks ago. He did promise. Lee Cowden's going to be our guest on the 20th, talking about an accumulation discussion of all of the energy therapies. So much is hitting and bombarding us right now with various energy therapies, all of which more than likely have benefit, but which ones are the ones that you should really take your time and concern with? Lee Cowden, after writing a book on energy therapy, is going to talk all about it on the 20th. He'll be with us. Don't forget, meetings this Thursday. My office, if you're interested in being involved with essential oils, learning more about it, and in particular a company called Young Living, Sharon Bovalina, going to be in my office at 7 o'clock on Thursday evening. If you'd like to be a part of it, dial us up at 724-942-3002 and tell Kim to save you a chair. Other meetings, hey, a 40th anniversary, how about that? Up there at the Freedom Choice and Cancer Therapy Group, going to hold the 40th anniversary event at the Days Inn. You remembered it well, just south of Butler, right side of the road, about a mile south, 7 o'clock. Dave and Faith will be the guests at that particular event. Then Mike Legal, the CEO of a company called First Alternatives, and the sole distributor of the Avasia units, a microcurrent device that has really become very popular. We think that it deserves special mention. Mike Legal will be talking about that one, and that pretty much rounds out the month. That is action-packed, folks. We'll reserve our Fridays for a get 'em up out of town version. It looks like it should work each and every Friday, and we'll turn the page come to the end of the month and move to June, and hopefully have it as action-packed as it is for you right now. I do notice a quick knock on the door. Let's find out what's on your mind. Come on in the store. Go right ahead.
Hey, Doc, what's going on?
I thought it was you, Danville. Danville, say it quick. What do you got in mind?
Hey, I got a guy that's trying to sell me a nutritional product, and it's kind of like a one-a-day, really good, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It uses vitamin C as calcium ascorbate. Now, is that possibly non-GMO? Is that why they're doing that versus some other vitamin C in this thing?
Well, no, that mustn't necessarily mean that you're getting it from a non-GMO source. So you make sure you read that label. If it is a form of vitamin C that is non-corn derived, it will state it on the label. Certainly, if it says nothing, you are to assume it's corn derived. The companies that take the time to get it from a non-corn derived source know doggone well that they are proud of the fact that they've taken the time and effort to use an alternative source, and they publish it and place it right up there for all to see. So if it's absent, or in fact if it states if it's corn derived, which I find it very hard to believe that it will, nonetheless, that's how you do it. Read the label.
Hey, is that how you say it? Ascorbate?
Ascorbic acid, ascorbate, vitamin C, however you say it. 99.9% of all vitamin C is coming from corn, and that ain't good. Okay?
Got it. Thanks.
All right, there you go, Danville. Thanks for the check-in. Vitamin C. Speaking of vitamin C, after you have gone to class with me for so many years now, and you know to get the non-corn derived, I think I'm really pleased that so many of you out there are just right on the page, and you won't be hoodwinked or skedoozled in any way. Of course, we want that to be a fat-soluble form of vitamin C, because if you're going to take the time to take it, you want to be able to absorb every bit of the vitamin C you take by mouth. And unfortunately, if you have the standard water-soluble form, it may be non-corn derived, but you only absorb 3% of what you take in, and that's hardly fair. So you want to move to a liposomal form, a fat-soluble form. There are two companies, one called Quicksilver, another called, and there may be some more, believe you me, but the two I'm most familiar with, Quicksilver and Bioimmune, all have products with liposomal C. We carry them both. But then we had economy in mind and put together kits that Sarah found a source for citrus-derived vitamin C. I always thought it was from citrus. Not true. Vitamin C rarely comes from citrus, but we've got a source, as well as a lecithin source that is non-soy derived, and we found a sunflower source of it. Anyway, you can mix those two together, make a liposomal form, congeal it in a ultrasonic jewelry cleaner. Yes, that's part of the kit. And you can have a very economical way of taking vitamin C. I strongly urge and recommend those who enjoy taking vitamin C to make sure they're getting the best bang for their buck, and really for pennies you can have a daily dose of vitamin C, one that would cost you easily dollars in any other form. We got the kits in now. Our source of vitamin C comes in powdered vitamin C, sold by the kilo. Anyway, 1 kilo of powder along with, they'll take 6 bottles of lecithin over the course of a year. You'll be able to make full, I think, 2-year supply for pennies. So if you're interested in that, the kits are now available. You can call up. You want to talk to Sister Sarah at 724-942-3002 so she can get you fixed up. The Beamer. Hey, you remember the Beamer? We had Dr. Todd Wiley on our show 1 week ago. He's an eye doctor from the state, well, he's from Spokane, Washington, and he sung the praises of the use of the Beamer for treating cataracts in his practice. Now, I let you know at the time that we were awaiting the arrival of our Beamer. And by the way, the Beamer spelled B-E-M-E-R is not the kind you drive around. It's the kind that treats microcirculation in a way that I've never found anything that works this way. If you want to actually visually see how well this does it, I suggest you go to YouTube, youtube.com, and in the search engine type Todd Wiley, or how about this, just Beamer, B-E-M-E-R / vasomotion. And look at the probably 4-minute video, and you'll never forget how well this device works. I keep showing it to my patients and my staff. One look at that, and you know, oh my goodness, I got to do it. Anyway, our Beamer had arrived. It's now in service. It gets launched today. It's going to be a big part of my practice all the way around, but in particular, the cataract issue is going to be dealt with first. Our cataract clinic, our first cataract clinic, is going to be held the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st right here in the office. If you have cataracts, and by especially if they're just beginning, if they're, I guess, what they call baby cataracts, you've been told by your doctor, oh, I see here where you have cataracts. Look, we'll just keep watching them until they ripen. I think that's the word they use, until they ripen enough, and then I'll send you on to have that surgery. Well, don't wait around for anything to ripen. You jump on that as early as you can because it's so easy to eradicate the cataract at the early stage, especially using the Beamer. More on this subject, you want to give us a call at 724-942-3002. Talk to Sister Sarah about the cataract clinic, the first one to be held, I believe, in this area at all. Is one I'll report back to you, but if you'd like to be a part of it. Right now, with the Beamer alone, Dr. Wiley reported 1 week ago that he has reversed and corrected 55 out of the last 89 patients who came to him with cataracts. That is a phenomenal number, but you know what? It's still not good enough. That's somewhere around 60%. I'm going to take that well up to 80%. I know it's going to happen, and I'll let you know how successful we are. But even if we only got the Beamer results, my goodness, that's just unbelievable that something like that can happen, and you don't have to have that surgery. That many people under the care of Dr. Todd Wiley, by using the Beamer alone, has been able to reverse their cataracts, and they don't need the surgery anymore. So to answer the question for yourself, do I have to have that surgery? Well, you're going to have that surgery unless you have a way to reverse it. The earlier, the better. Don't forget to call us up, 724-942-3002. I wrote an article in the Journal of Lifestyle Medicine, the spring edition. The title of the article, The Cataract Cure. I just had to write about it, and you can get a copy at my office for sure. They're free. Other alternative doctors throughout the area and most health food stores. The Lifestyle Medicine Journal, the Journal of Lifestyle Medicine, I believe the way they say it. Dan Wagner has a great article in there. Dr. Charmaine Bassett is also featured. What the hell, the last page? Charmaine Bassett Trim. I was looking for that married name of hers. Anyway, she's talking about FSM, and she knows an awful lot about it. So I direct your attention to that. What else? Top Doc books. We're getting a new supply of the original Top Doc books. That first publication came out just about a year ago, coming up here in June, July, where we launched it in Phoenix, Arizona last year. The top 20 alternative medical doctors were invited to Phoenix and presented a chapter there. I was honored to be chosen as one of those top docs. And then, wouldn't you know, less than a year later, another book comes out. It's a book by top docs, 17 of them, some of them from the original 20, some of them not, on chelation therapy. Both books available in the office. They're collector's items. Every time I see my name On the front of it, I get a little giddy at a pitch creep, folks. Give us a call at 724-942-3002. All right, let's do this. Let's take a short break. In the interim, we'll get connected with a good friend of ours. You met him a number of years ago. He's back. He knows more about how to wipe out bugs in your blood than anybody, utilizing a technique called ultraviolet blood irradiation. He travels all over this country and the world, for that matter, helping people become saved from chronic infection or acute infection. On the topic of ultraviolet blood irradiation, the expert Tom Lowe, our guest today. Be right back in a moment with Mr. Lowe. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Heard here in KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney today on a Monday morning version of the show. And in anticipation of our guest today, I've been telling you, look, you met him once before. It's about the beginning of 2014 where I just had met him at a conference in Phoenix, Arizona, and met the great Frank Schallenberger. These two people seem to be linked. Every time I go to a conference where one is, so too is the other. They have quite an arsenal in their own within their own power to help people in really serious medical jams. Tom's component, ultraviolet blood irradiation. It's called biophotonic therapy. I'll let him describe what that one means. But let's get to meet him once again, as you did initially back in 2014. I want to say good morning and welcome aboard, Mr. Thomas Lowe. Thanks for allowing me to invade your morning today.
Not much of an invasion. It's a privilege, Dennis. Glad to be here and hope we have some good information for your listeners, too. And I know it will be.
Well, I know it was valuable information back then. A whole new crew of listeners are probably with us today. And as so often the case, I often have my guests talk to me a bit about their past and bring us up to speed on how they arrived where they are today. In your case, a very interesting circuitous route brings you into the domain of healthcare, as well as how to really play a prominent role, especially in infections, through this technique called ultraviolet blood irradiation or biophotonic therapy, whatever you want to call it. How did you get involved with UBI?
Well, it's an interesting story. I'm a businessman and have had a number of businesses through the years. And a friend of mine in our church had gone to Togo, West Africa. He's an RN, been a CPU RN for years, or ICU, excuse me. I'm getting the computers wrong. And he had used UBI down there on rabies, tuberculosis, a number of issues. And he said it was fantastic, phenomenal, almost miraculous. And he came and called me one day and said, "Tom, I'd like to start a clinic. This is just a great tool." And I was skeptical. I was just conventional medicine all the way. You know, you just listen to your doctor and whatever he says you do. But I kind of humored him, listened for an hour, and after that hour, I thought, well, I'll look into it. We have the internet now. We can investigate things. And so I started investigating ultraviolet blood irradiation and found that there was just nothing that was negative about it. And if you can find that on the internet, that's phenomenal.
True.
Through that research and kind of a long story, I did start a clinic with Matt, and we spent the next year, the machines need to be revamped, the procedure needed to be revamped. We just made it better and better from what the Germans had done and some of the Russians. And these guys were the guys who hung on to UBI through the 50s and 60s when drugs got so prominent here, and antibiotics and vaccines, and UBI dropped off the face of the earth almost in the United States. But now there's been resurgence. Been privileged to help a lot of doctors get started in this, and it is one of those miraculous sometimes type of therapies, and it's so basic. So anyway, that's kind of the start of it, and I've been involved 6 years now, and there are over 50,000 treatments done each year in the United States here.
And in no short order, you're involved with quite a few of them. You're out spreading the word. You travel. I always seem to find you with Dr. Schallenberger because his connection with ozone and UBI goes so great, sort of hand in glove, hand in hand kind of a thing. Could you describe for my listeners how UBI is administered? And then theoretically, how is it that UBI does what UBI does?
Yeah. You know, it's used for the chronic disorders, and people kind of have to understand when they finally get tired of taking drugs and they say, I'm not being helped. That's when they end up in your office or other people's office and they say, what can I do? UBI is used for a number of things. It is non-specific, which is nice. It doesn't just treat one thing. But that doesn't mean it's not effective on a number of things. So the procedure is to draw 40 cc's of blood, a very small amount of blood, from a patient through a butterfly needle, just like you would getting your blood drawn for
a blood test.
And then that blood is put into saline, a little bit of heparin in there to prevent clotting. And then that saline blood mix is just dripped back down the IV tube through the machine that has 3 different wavelengths of light and back to the patient. It's only about a half-hour procedure, pretty painless, one poke, and yet we see just marvelous, marvelous things with it.
Now, these 3 lights that you mentioned, what kind of lights are they, and what is it? How is it that if they're passing through light, how is it that the blood that runs around it and is exposed to it ends up having imparted into it something that ends up helping you medically?
Yeah. A lot of people say, well, it cleans the blood, and that's not really accurate. What it's doing is working with your immune system. Everybody understands a little bit about vaccines, and if I get a vaccine, I have an attenuated virus or whatever, and it's put into me, and then the body recognizes it and builds antibodies against it. Well, the UVC light, we know that's germicidal. Some of you old-timers might remember that they had UV lights in the old barber shops, and they put the clippers in there to kill the bacteria and the virus. We have that today. We have furnaces that have UV light, and we have water systems that use UV light to kill bacteria and virus. Very effective. Well, if you have bacteria and virus in your blood, that UVC light scrambles the DNA code in there and sends it back in. It basically breaks it apart, attenuated virus, and your body sees those particles there and says, oh, we've got an invader, and creates antibodies against the very virus or bacteria that you have in your blood. So we're not guessing here like with a flu shot. we are getting the exact thing that's in your system, and your own body is creating the antibodies. That's the UVC light. Very, very effective for infections, sepsis, herpes, shingles. It's a slam dunk, Dennis. You've seen it too.
Yeah.
For shingles, it's one, maybe two treatments. If you have a shingles flare-up, you should be racing to Dennis's office or any of the UBI doctors and say, give me this pretty painless treatment, and one or two starts to dry that right up. We're looking at doing a study on that and getting that published in a peer-reviewed journal that hopefully will occur this next year. Now, I'll comment on the other lights too.
Yeah, so there's one, as you said, UVC, ultraviolet C, which is a standard that most purification systems contain. What about these other two lamps?
Well, the other two lamps are UVA and UVB. These are UV lights, and we actually climb now into the visible light spectrum, into the 410, 420 nanometers, which is your deep violets and blues. These aren't just, nothing lights. These lights, again, add photonic energy into the system and have a stimulatory effect if you're low, cancer patients, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, or they have a balancing system. If it's high, it affects T cells. And the doctors know this that are out there working with graft versus host disease, that UVA and UVB light quiet the T cells down so the body doesn't reject these organs that are transplanted in. A lot of hospitals have these lights that work with this. They have a different system and so on, but any of you people with rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or allergy, asthma, rash, that won't go away. Again, UVI in the U and the A and the B lights that are in there affect that area. So just seen people with MS turn around, after they've tried all sorts of things and been on the drugs, and they do this. It's not a slam dunk. It's not everybody. You're going to know that too. But if we can get 60, 70% walking out saying, I'm significantly helped after 3 or 4 treatments, and that's what we saw in our clinic.
Sure, and especially with viruses where we really don't, in the conventional world, have a good arsenal against any viral infections at all. And the things that are out there in the marketplace in the pharmaceutical world that claim to be antivirals are really not much at all. I tell you that as a physician, I'm very unimpressed with the antiviral preparations available pharmaceutically, no matter which ones they are. And here, what a unique therapy that can conquer viruses and bacteria, I should add, and fungi and the like, but in particular viruses where we don't have very many great tools. You talked about zoster. I don't know where you think you're going in the conventional medical arena. If you have herpes zoster, you're going to be in agonizing pain, and not a thing's going to be done to help eradicate those bugs. Whereas you say, with a treatment or two, it's gone.
Yep. And even that shingles shot that they're advertising, it's, if you read the statistics on it, it helps like 1 out of 57 potentially, not shingles. So, it's got a pretty poor history, but it's, it's pharmaceutical. It's being pushed, and everybody believes that, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people just say, well, my doctor says get it. On the other hand, not a lot of people are getting that shingles shot, which is a better thing.
You can't hoodwink the public is so guarded now. They literally have been lied to so many times that they're gun shy. And even if that's the greatest shot in the world, I really don't think there are many takers out there. I know I'm not, and I don't even offer it here in the office to any patients that I see. And that's just that goes to show you by my act and deed how I feel about the whole doggone mess. Let me ask you this question. I oftentimes use the word frequency. I'm saying to patients, and maybe you can correct me if I'm in error, but I say that the UV lamps impart a frequency into the blood, a frequency that then is taken up by the blood, enters the recipient, and resonates and does its work for many hours to days afterwards. Am I right or am I wrong with that kind of an explanation?
Well, it's not far off. You're close. I would say energy more than frequency, as some of the frequency things that are out there have some effect. This seems to, again, to be different with the energy, biophotonic energy, where we're exciting electrons, sending them in, stimulating, again, some response. So we're getting things like vasodilation, microcirculation improvement, oxygen uptake, which are kind of side benefits of this. So anyone with peripheral vascular disease or COPD and some of these things, we're helping get the body back into the shape that it should be. But you're correct in that this energy goes around and actually has effect for 2 to 3 days as an impact, and then can have effect for 6 to 8 weeks in the system being restored somewhat. So not only are we killing a small amount of bugs and creating a vaccine response, but we're also encouraging the immune system, stimulating the immune system. If it's too high, we quiet it down. If it's too low, we bring it back up. So it is frequency, but it's more energy absorption. That's why we went into this 410, 420. A Chinese study showed that to absorb energy into the blood products, one of the highest areas is in the 420 nanometer range, which is a real deep purple. So if we want energy put into the system, carried around by the blood cells, then that's what we're looking for, and that alone is part of the stimulus for the immune system. So yeah, you're real close there.
Okay, so I'll clean up my act just a bit and use the word energy. And I'm glad I checked with you. I want to be completely accurate, and I think now that I know how to do it, I will make certain that I clean up my act, so to speak.
No problem.
When it comes to the use of this technique, you've traveled worldwide. You've gone in literally in a missionary mode almost to help backward nations conquer some of the most difficult infections. Any interesting stories or programs that you were a part of? Because I know personally that you have been, and you don't speak of them much, but my listeners would love to hear how you've entered into some populations where medical care was virtually absent and have been able to rescue them. Any in particular that resonate in your own mind?
Well, yeah, I think for those people, and I think we all do, we look at other countries, we can see them on the TV every night, and we see the dire straits they're in. Many of them don't have the drugs that are available here in the United States, whether that's good or bad sometimes. But as a personal note, I have been in the Ukraine, I've been in the Philippines, down in Mexico, and I would like to, and we've just put together an organization. We're having our first conference, you know about that, in June, which is the Society of Oxidative and Photonic Medicine. Part of that is to bring these modalities, which are inexpensive, easy to use, to different poorer countries, and I'm looking for places that have boots on the ground, like you say, missionary stations that have a medical clinic, and put in a room where they can just do a UVI ozone on patients with infections. I mean, they don't know how to treat some of these infections of superbugs that keep these wounds open. Real interesting. You're at this last conference with me down in Naples, and not Naples, it was in St. Pete Beach, but the lady across, who was a vendor, walked over to me and said, I know that machine. She was looking at it and the thing. She said, that saved my life. And I hear this occasionally, and she went on her story of having done surgery, had superbugs in there, the MRSA, the stuff that wouldn't heal. She said, I was going downhill. It was 4 months. I tried every strong antibiotic they'd put me on, and I was not getting better. She said, I went in and had a single treatment, which surprised me, but it turned her around, and she was 40 years old. I mean, she was a young gal that, that tells my age, but it was one of those things. And I hear that, every 6 months or so, your machine saved my life. And so that's really gratifying. We want to do that in other countries. So we're setting up a humanitarian branch where we can look to, and if any of your listeners know a mission station that does medical that might be open to this, we'd like to hear about it too, so we can possibly help them put some machines in there, do some training.
Yeah, now you mentioned this, the MRSA category. There's so many new strains of bacteria that are becoming resistant to any antibiotic. Probably the explanation for why that's the case, but we don't have to get into that right now. But with respect to ultraviolet blood radiation, it has no, I guess the word tolerance associated with it at all, does it?
No, there isn't any kind of living bug, if I can say it that way, or virus or bacteria that can stand the UV light. So, that's the good part about it being non-specific. Now, people need to understand that when this light goes into blood does not have a nucleus. So there's no damage to the red blood cells. And so we're just pretty well picking on these virus and bacteria, but it doesn't matter what strand there is no tolerance for this kind of thing. It kills it, tears it apart, sends it in, and creates that vaccine type response.
Outstanding. Now, you mentioned in your explanation just a moment ago, a word flipped out, and it turns out it's a great combination therapy with UBI, and of course, that's the use of something called ozone. We first met, by the way, at a Dr. Frank Schallenberger conference, and it just seemed to be the marriage of two complementary therapies that when we use one or the other, you get great results. You team the two up, you get outstanding results. Could you spend a moment talking about this, I believe, 1-2 punch, this double whammy that has no equal, ozone and UBI?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. FDA says ozone has no medical usage, and so that's their position. Although, and you may not have known about this, but there was a company that for 10 years was working with ozone and UBI, and they're a Canadian company, and they spent over $225 million working on process patents and doing over 60 studies, medical studies, reviewed studies on ozone and UBI together. And it just covered the gamut of disorders. And the company went under. They were working on chronic heart failure, and they didn't meet their end point. And so in 2009, it was bought up by another smaller pharmaceutical. But the point was, we've got the data now. Ozone and UBI together are synergistic. They give better results than either one alone, depending upon what you're treating. But yeah, this is we just think this is an old therapy that kind of works. No, this is data now from rats to mice to beagles to humans that they did all of these studies on showing the effectiveness of ozone and UBI together. Fantastic. Fantastic set. And I have all that data, so if people want it, they could write the doctor's UBI site there, and I could get them that if they're interested.
Yeah, I should mention your site, doctorsubi.com, folks. If you want to go check out what Tom's talking about, you'll see biophotonic therapy. Don't let it scare you. It's just a big word that really is probably more accurate in terms of describing this therapy. But doctors, DRS, doctorsubi.com, you can go and find out more about this. Now I got a special question. It's a doctor kind of question, but it's one that I haven't been able to answer too well. When you're administering, and I so oftentimes use the combination of ozone and UBI, at what rate? You said earlier that a treatment takes about 30 to 35 minutes, which conjures up an image. How does the drip rate, how should the drip rate be set? So many patients are saying, can you speed it up? Can you slow it down? And they all have a reason for why they're asked one or the other. But now I'm asking the expert, what is the ideal rate for giving the blood back, whether it's going to be ozonated or not, but it has to pass through your unit? I think that's the limiting step. How quickly does the blood need to move through there, or how slowly does it need to move through there?
Well, that's a very good question. There's a lot of misinformation out there, isn't there?
Yeah, there sure is.
Internet's great. I hear it, I won't say every day, every other day. People are asking me these types of questions. it deals with joules of energy to disable virus and bacteria. So it's a measurement of the energy that we want. And that has to do with a whole bunch of factors regarding the device that the doctor is using. So, we have kind of put it together, looked at a lot, and set up a standard. And that standard is 10 milliliters per minute. It may not mean a lot to the patients there, but if you have 200 milliliters of blood saline mix, it's going to take you 20 minutes to drip it through. It's that easy, but that gives the amount of energy, the length of time that it travels in the machine, the speed that it's going through, the diameter of the tube, all those, the closeness of the bulb, all those things have direct impact on the therapy. And we have found that this circle or target is a good amount. And some, of course, a small person, child, it still can be used. You just scale it down. A larger person, they can have a little more volume and let it go. But that speed rate it takes 52 seconds to get through the tube, the one I'm thinking of, and at least point people toward, which is the Zura machine. And there are other machines out there, and they all have some effect. Not saying that, but this one has been perfected over the last 5 years to give the right amount of energy, the right amount of tubes. And so part of the dripping rate is part of that process of saying, this one works. Hey, you're a doctor. You want to modify it? I think the independent...
I am so happy to get an actual answer. You say 10 mLs a minute, total treatment of 20 minutes of infusion back into the patient. Is that what I hear loud and clear?
Yeah, it is. Anywhere from 200 mils to milliliters up to 240 mils. Somewhere in there is a common amount. But some draw a little more blood, some leave a little more saline in. But that's our standard that we've kind of sent out to give, again, continuity. So there has never been anything out there that says, here's the rate, here's the speed, here's the diameter of the tube, here's all the joules of energy. Okay, now at least we have a standard to go by so we can get consistency in our therapies so we can say this works and here's what it is.
Man, am I glad I asked that question. It's really been bugging me, and intuitively people think, whoa, I just slow that thing down the more I slow it down, but there's a point of no return, huh? I guess that's what you're saying, that it moving through at a pretty good clip like that, you've already determined takes 52 seconds to wind its way through that. Is that what you said? That the contortions, the twists and turns that happens inside the block.
It's not better is part of it, and there are other tubes and manufacturers out there that have smaller tubes. So when you have a smaller tube, everything goes through it quicker, and so that's what we needed to do is create a larger diameter, and to do that we also had to move the blood because if it's crawling through the tube, it blocks a lot of the light. So we designed a turbo, we call it Turbo 180, which is a insert in there that allows that blood to spin and hop through a hub 15 different times through the length of the tube, and it just gives total mixing. It's the greatest thing that's happened really in UBI, in my opinion, in the last 30 years, because it gave exposure that never was allowable before. So the stuff that you're using, Dennis, you got the premier stuff, and it does work well. It works a lot better than what was out there. So people had a treatment 7-8 years ago on one of the little machines and didn't do much. Hey, come back. There's something new.
Well, I'm glad I asked that question. Even that's a little inside ball. It is a question that now I've resolved. Thank you so much for resolving it. Let's move to a different concept. Now, yes, it's true that every time I've been in an ozone conference, Tom Lowe is there. And because of the great marriage between ozone treatments and UBI, it was just a natural that you should be in the room. It's now so natural you've decided to move into the ozone realm, and you were very excited when I saw you in St. Pete because you've identified a way to have the in-home use of ozone become probably more purchasable than ever before. Why don't you take the time to describe the new units that you have, because I think you're the only person that has them.
Yeah, and actually it's not mine, but someone else is doing it, and I applaud them. I've been in the design side of this. Now, for you listeners that don't understand too much about ozone is we'll call it activated oxygen. It is a very reactive species. It's O3. When we have a lightning storm, you can smell that ozone. They use it for almost all the bottling of bottled water has an ozone pass on it because it too kills bacteria and virus. It's a pretty common thing out there. They use it for wastewater treatment. They use it for cleaning fruit and vegetables, which you didn't see this, Dennis. We've got a little one on this website, and you can clean your fruit and vegetables of 95% of all the pesticides that are on the surface, and it kills all the bacteria and virus in 7 minutes. The unit costs like $70. My wife does it all the time to all our stuff. Japan uses it a lot. They can use it on meat and fish, but that's kind of an aside, but it's a small generator of ozone, just bubbles in the kitchen and cleans that up in 7 minutes. It's really a nice unit. Anyway, we did look at the next level, which is that for what's commonly used as rectal ozone. Now, hats off to you doctors, and you, Dennis, as you are promoting this, is this doesn't bring you any money. This doesn't bring you patients. I mean, you're doing this because you care about people, and you realize they can't come back to your office, 2 times a week to have therapy. Well, those people with these chronic disorders, the Lyme, the cancer, they can do something in their immune system with ozone that nothing else does. And so this rectal ozone therapy, it's been around for decades. It has been promoted by the Germans, but now we have a unit, a small unit about the size of a brick, running less than $600, and people can use it every day in their home. I mean, I do it as it's anti-aging. Every doctor should have one of these just at home, because 2 times a week, and you are doing something to your immune system that nothing else can do. The Cubans, Sylvia Menendez down there, I met with her last fall, and they have done thousands and thousands of treatments and have, I would say, 1,000 medical studies. Everything from retinitis pigmentosa, which surprised me, to Hep C are treated just with rectal ozone alone. So it is an exciting new area, and I'll give you the company because people need to know it. It's simply03.com.
Simply03.com.
Yeah, and all they do is sell ozone machines. So we're not talking medical. I'm talking medical as the director of the website, Doctors Ozone. So there's another one to add if you haven't been in, but drsozone.com. And they can actually watch the basics of setup and what a procedure is. But in 3 minutes, you can have a treatment that costs pennies that can turn your life around drastically.
Yeah, the vasculature in the rectum is very extensive, and so it's not practical to do IV at home to yourself. It just doesn't work. I mean, I know I can't do it to myself, and one would like to be able to be autonomous and be able to treat themselves. But the use of rectal insufflation, by the way, vaginal insufflation, which is another way of administering it. This is a gas that you literally expose to the tissues, and how much absorption do you get with that? Pretty good.
Well, the rectum is actually better than vaginally, and I talked to Menendez on this again. She is the PhD expert on this whole area. But so the Germans, who have worked with this for years, and Renee Verban Hunzler was the one who put together the first machines that could regulate the ozone in the 50s. Her comment is it's 95% as effective as putting it in the blood. So here you are getting a quick, easy treatment. A small catheter goes in, you push the gas in, you pull it out. You can clean that catheter if you want, 2 minutes. And so the rectum seems to be the better of the two, although vaginally works. There are some other things on the website they could see too, where the Germans and Russians, their practice manual is on there. The Madrid Declaration from Spain. Oh, let me comment on something too. A lot of people want to know about drinking ozonated water.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and do it. There's just no literature on its efficacy. I know there's anecdotal stories. I felt better, my stomach got better. things happen. And so I think there's some positive things to it, but in 2 minutes, I can do the same thing with the rectal ozone, and it's so easy. So I don't discourage it. I just say, why do you want to do that? If you know you're getting a full treatment this one way, questionable treatment the other way, there just isn't any literature on it that says this works.
Well, not truly able to combine the two.
Right.
It doesn't, maybe not practical to do UBI at home because of the need to do IVs, but to get the other half component and be able to do the UBI at interval in a doctor's office looks like maybe a more economically pleasing way to have patients be able to take charge of their own individual medical issues, and do so in a way that certainly has a major payoff in antimicrobial language. That there's no substitute for this double whammy. Ozone and ultraviolet blood radiation has enabled me to just avoid the use of antibiotics entirely, and I mean entirely. So it is my recommendation that you consider to maybe lessen, for sure, if not completely remove those antibiotics, which have one heck of a toxicity profile. And now, because we're in the realm of MRSA and all these other resistant forms, it's highly questionable to use it. Certainly, by the way, many medical doctors have, which has been inappropriate. Sometimes they've prescribed antibiotics for a viral disease. I mean, it just turned out to be nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah, it does.
All right, with about 5 minutes left to go, you always have something on your plate, something. And by the way, folks, if you do have a question for Mr. Lowe, feel free. This is the time to come on in with about 5 minutes left to go. I'm sure he doesn't mind answering any questions. The number to do that is to dial us up at 412-825-6262. But what's next on the agenda for Mr. Tom Lowe? You always don't let grass grow under your feet. Where are you off to? What are you going to be doing next?
Well, the biggest thing, and I mentioned to you, is we had last year in the Philippines done a conference and worked with some humanitarian work there and done training in the ozone UBI realm. And as I looked at that and I put together the Doctor's Ozone site, which is a great tool, I wanted to expand that and put together or pull together something that has never been done before, and that's this conference that we're having in Salt Lake City. It is open to the public. It costs a fair amount, so they consider that, but we are pulling together the currents, which are microcurrents, and the PEMF, or pulsed electromagnetic frequency, and all those. I think you talked about the beamer. I heard you talking.
Yeah, right.
All those devices there have their own, efficacy for therapy. And the other side is there's lasers and lights and LEDs that also are used, some in very conventional ways, but we are pulling them together, and the electromagnetic people together, and the ozone UBI people together to have a conference that's going to highlight all those areas. I'll give you a website again. It's SOPMED, SOPMED.org. And it's got the .org as we're a organization trying to promote the training. But all three of these have some efficacy, and we're pulling experts from the world that are going to talk about this. They deal with everything from the infections. We're having an infection summit talking about what we can do, the third world recommendations, not just ozone, not just UBI, but what about silver and some of the other things that might combine. So those experts are going to be there. So I'm really excited about that. And
so when is it? It's in June and in Utah. Am I right about this?
It is in Salt Lake City, Utah. We are going to have somewhere around 200 physicians there who are alternative physicians. There's some naturopaths, there's MDs, DOs, there's some dentists coming in. We have people coming all the way from Mongolia, Syria, New Zealand. We're looking at people from England and Ireland and Mexico. So Dubai, we've got people from international that are coming in for this to take part of it and just learn also all the details. We've got a lot of training going on that Thursday prior to the conference.
Outstanding. We do have a knock on the door. Somebody wants to get at you, Tom. You don't mind taking questions, do you?
No, by all means.
Hey, come on in the store. You're with Tom. Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Thank you very much, Mr. Lowe, for sharing all this information. I do have one question about ozone, filling, whatever.
You're breaking up. Get your mouth close to the phone.
I have a question about refilling the ozone instrument you use.
Okay.
You offer some advice as to how to obtain refills?
Good question. Oxygen is what is to be used with the ozone generators, and so there are two kinds. You can get medical oxygen, which is the little green top with a silver tank, and you see people hauling those around. That's the medical tank oxygen. There's also industrial oxygen, so the air gas. Those oxygens are the same, but the tanks are somewhat different. So I know doctors who use the big industrial tanks in their office. That oxygen is pure. It is filled from the same receptacle that fills the medical oxygen tank. So when people can't get a prescription or find difficulty doing that, they just go down to their welding supply place and they purchase a tank, use that tank. Now it takes a special regulator. It takes a pediatric regulator, and I think simply O3.com can help you with that. If you need to pick up a pediatric regulator, it's called a 540 regulator for the industrial tank. But those are the two options.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed.
Great question. That's absolutely right. If there is a problem wherever you happen to be with getting a prescription from a doctor, because you need a prescription to have a medical tank filled, you do not need a prescription to get the commercial grade, which is the exact same thing, just a different tank with a different regulator. So one or the other, whichever is the most convenient for you, feel free to do so. Now, Tom, we're just getting blasted here telling us it's our time out of here. I want to thank you for coming aboard today. I'll continue to promote the up-and-coming conference, as well as the use of UBI and ozone as a double whammy combination. I'll see you. I never know when I'm going to see you because our paths cross so much. I look forward to our next opportunity. Thank you very much, Tom.
I appreciate it a lot, Dennis. Take care, and Lord bless all you guys out there who have diseases, disorders, and you got doctors like Dennis that'll help you out. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. There you have it, folks. Mr. Tom Lowe, the go-to guy on UBI, our guest today. So we're going to say goodbye right now. Don't forget on Wednesday, Ed Kane will be here talking about mineral testing and natural chelation. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for AIM Impact on Your Health.